Hello everyone, welcome to the first video in the Game Creator 2 basic series. In this video we'll be looking at the core module of Game Creator 2 itself and how to use it. Before we get started, I'd like to thank all of the Patreon supporters for the absolutely amazing support. So here we are in the Unity Hub. Now in order to use Game Creator 2, we'll need to install the beta version of Unity 2021.2 and then beta 9 or 10. Now in order to do this, we can go to installs, and if you don't have it yet, we can click on add. And as you can see, it's not available here in the list except for at the total bottom, and as you can see we even have 11 here. Now for some reason you don't have this and you still need to join the beta program, simply double click on it and we'll get the beta. Make sure you're signed in, and then go to the beta version and basically install it through the hub. Perfect. Now I'm not using the latest version, but the version I'm using is fine. So we're going to create a new project and make sure you select the latest beta version you have installed. We'll call this Game Creator 2 Basics. Create, and it'll install the project. And then here we are in our new project. So I'm going to rearrange this just a tiny bit, as this honestly bugs me a bit. Cool. So if you're not used to using Unity 2021, you'll see a couple of differences. Now for one, all of these options normally were in a bar, and you can still do that. Simply drag it in and they'll be back. We can do the same here, and basically everything looks pretty much the same as it did before. So yeah, you can keep things pretty standard. Now there's a couple of things we need to install in the project as well. So as you can see right now we have these things installed, but we need a bit more. So we're going to go to Unity Registry, and we're going to start with importing animation rigging. And that'll take a short while, and once that's done we're going to go over to the next one, and also the last one we need to install, and that's the input system. Now this is Unity's newest input system, and we need to have that installed as well. Now I'm not going to install any of the samples here, as I don't really see the point myself, but yeah. Then we get this warning, do you want to enable the backends? We'll disable the old Unity. Okay, yes. And there we go. So this will then restart the project, which will take a short while. It's a new project, so it shouldn't take too long. But yeah, still annoying. And then we're opening back in our project manager, package manager, which is perfect because then we can go to my assets. Now I need to filter this as I have an addiction and have way too many assets. So let's hope we can find it like this. Game Creator 2, there we go. So this time I'm not using any preview version, I'm just installing and downloading the real version of Game Creator 2. And then we hit import. There we go. Then we're going to import. And there we go. So now we can close the package manager as we've got everything installed. And we have a first look at our welcome window. So basically a couple of slides explaining how to use it, with some tutorials, documentation, learn by example, which we will do, and the hub of course, and the Discord. Now in general we have our audio mixers, and I'm going to close this. So let me do this as well. So then we're going to go to Game Creator, and I'm going to check the hub because this was something that last time didn't work for me. And maybe I need to sign in first. I'll make sure to do that for the next video, as I won't be using it yet, as well, there won't be anything there yet. Cool. So when it comes to the examples, we have our dependencies, and I'm just going to install the dependencies first. And there we go. Perfect. And they're all set. Then when we go to plugins, Game Creator, we have documentation in here, which obviously you should read, just like I did at some point. And then we're going to go to the first one. Now the reason I'm opening up this scene is I want to, make sure this is all working for you. So I had an issue initially, and we have a fix for that as well. So if I'm going to hit play now, and on the first instance we can walk, jump, and we can't walk again. As you can see, well, you can't see my keyboard, but I'm pressing the button and we can't walk, and now it's walking again. Really strange little thing. So basically hit play, remove the camera shot, right click, camera shot, add it again, then hit play mode again, and it's going to work, but I had the wrong version here. So third person, let me do this properly. Third person, there we go. Now if I hit play now, I won't have the issues anymore, and it will just work. Even if I stop, it will just work. Not too sure. Couple of things to keep in mind. One, this is still a beta version of Game Creator 2, and two, this is still a beta version of Unity. Now, if you're wondering why we're using a beta version of Unity, is because for Game Creator 2, the creator wanted to make sure to make use of the latest Unity developments and not have basically some outdated things in there from the start. So that's the reason why we're using a beta version, just to make sure that we're able to use all of Unity's latest developments. So yeah, that's pretty good, pretty cool. Now the way Game Creator works is basically you have a couple of things. So I'm going to create a new scene here. We can use the sample scene actually. Yeah, save. I didn't install any extra things, so no Unity sample, so it's pretty empty. So we're going to add a plane, 10, 10. I'll just place this all. There we go. Let's create a small folder here. Let's call it materials. Now I would like to highlight one thing. If you have been guessing about using, have been thinking about using the latest version of, HDRP or URP or anything like that, it has never been more appealing to use HDRP. Especially in this beta version, Unity has introduced a new cloud system, all built in for HDRP, including normal cloud skyboxes, basically textures, but they still move. They look absolutely gorgeous. But you can also do volumetric clouds. One of the best things about it is that it doesn't really affect performance that much. Especially if you use the 2D ones, it hardly even affects performance. Now that's something I cannot say for most assets that do something similar. So yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. On top of that, with 2021, Unity also introduced support for FSR and DLSS, which basically are performance enhancing techniques by upscaling through some machine learning, AI stuff. So you can basically have your project at a higher resolution with hardly any performance impact. So it's pretty cool. Obviously, yes, this is still a beta version, but even without those techniques, I was already getting better performance in 2021 beta compared to 2020 LTS. So yeah, pretty cool. Definitely worth trying. Cool. So let's add the basics. So we need a camera shot. I'm going to set this to third person again, just because It is the most used. I'll do a separate video on first person as well, as it's definitely worth looking into, as it's gotten a lot better. And we have our player. So the player, as you can see, is slightly new model. We have a couple of new things when we look at it like this, and basically those are the collision boxes. Yeah, pretty cool stuff. So when we inspect the player, we have a couple of options, and basically, you know, primary motion is just the default. And if I'd hit play now, basically, you know, it would be the default, control the camera, control the player, and yeah, it's, you know, WASD. I can even use, you know, the arrow keys. I don't know who would want to do that, but if you want to do that for some reason, you can. If for some reason you want to use arrow keys for something specific and you want that locked, you can literally just lock it to WASD. That way you can't use the arrow keys. So we can lock that way. Now here are all of our default settings, and the first thing you will notice is that we no longer have can run. So the way it works is if we, I think if we set it to, well, 1 might be a bit exaggerated. But we have a new type of, well, maybe 1 was a bit too much. Yeah, okay, 1 is too much. We can't really do much with 1. So I'm not sure if this is already in, because I'm not really seeing it that much, but basically depending on the speed, we should be getting different animations, but I don't think that's actually in this version yet. I saw it mentioned a couple of times. I didn't try it out yet. But yeah, you know, no need to be concerned about that. It's going to be in there with different states and etc. But yeah, it's as far as I'm aware, it's not in here yet, so it could be. So we have rotation, mass, height. Now I do like having all of these options here straight away, so I'm going to set this back. So the mass is the mass of the player, the height of the player. Now, most of the time that's going to be, you know, 1.8 is slightly better than 2 meters, because most character models will not be 2 meters, not by default anyway. We have acceleration, yes or no, and if you don't remember what acceleration is, it's basically a sort of, you know, if I press now, we'll get there straight away. It does look a lot smoother without acceleration than it did in the previous Game Creator. But yeah, as you can see, you know, we still have like snappy movements. But yeah, it's actually definitely looking better than it did in previous versions. So I'll keep that on. We have can jump, air jumps, jump force, cooldown, gravity, and terminal velocity. So it's nice to have all of these options in here straight away. So we have push force, max slope, and when it comes to rotation, we have pivot, pivot delayed. I'm going to turn on pivot delayed as well, just so you actually have an impression of what it is. So with pivot delayed, if we turn around, it will basically keep a direction for a while. So as you can see, we're not straight away turning into that position the moment we start doing that. So if I do this, as you can see, we have a small sideward step first, the first time we're doing that, which is pretty cool. I do like that. But I'll set it back to normal just for now. And then when it comes to animations, we have a lot of animation options for IK, inverse kinematics, meaning, you know, the body will basically adjust and you don't need animations for that. So we can use look at, and the nice thing here is that it's no longer just using the head for look at, it's actually using the entire body, and we can customize how much of the body is used. I really like this, as it feels a lot more natural. So I definitely recommend having a play with this. Try it a bit. It's worth checking out. Now we have footsteps sound as well. I'm not going to display this. There's actually a separate example showcasing how the footstep sounds work. Personally, I'm really happy with this. because we can basically base it on materials. It's just so nice to have that built in. It's actually not as easy as you'd hope without having that built in. So yeah, really cool that it's in there. We have ragdoll as well. So yeah, all of the basic things are in here, but with more options and definitely a lot more elaborate than they were with the previous versions of Game Creator. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So once you have started like that and just added the player, straight away we can, walk, run, all of that stuff. We have some options here as well for the camera. So I'll try my default settings for Game Creator 1. I'm not sure if that's going to if that's still going to work here, but it will be cool to check out. I'm just going to keep it as is for the moment, and then this is something I'll look into a bit more, just to have a couple of camera setups similar to games you might be used to, and then we can have a proper look at how to set this up. Cool. So now we've done all of the basics. So we have our player, we have our camera, and we have our movements. Then basically the way Game Creator works is we have a type of high-level visual scripting in order to build our game. And when it comes to game, I'm talking mechanics, of course, not the environment. So when you go to Game Creator, we have interaction, we have a trigger, conditions, and actions. Hotspot is really cool as well, but it's something completely different, so I'll show that a bit later. But basically, we start off with a trigger, and this trigger will dictate what will happen when. So this is the starting point, and it's going to trigger, at some point. So we can have it trigger on start, and then we can add a wait seconds, 3 seconds, and then we can have the player jump. We hit play, and the player jumps. And yeah, that's it. Now obviously we have tons of options, and we wouldn't want that from the start. But yeah, from this menu you can basically select what types of triggers. So on start obviously makes sense, on when the scene starts, when we change a model, when we die, when we jump, when we land, when we recover from a ragdoll, once we start a ragdoll, once we get revived, or on step. That's everything related to the player. On become invisible, as you can see, there's a whole list. There's different options of what you can select, and all of these mechanics will basically dictate how you can start creating interactions in your game. Now every trigger will have an action following it, and this action is called an instruction. Now we can do that all in this file, but what if, for example, you'd want some conditions dictating it will only happen on start if. So we can do that as well. So we're going to type in conditions, and we're going to do run conditions. Now here we're going to create those conditions, and we're going to drag these in. Now we have this little box saying wait to finish, and we want this to wait to finish. We want to make sure these conditions are actually checked. Then we can dictate a condition. So character is available. Now this is pretty cool. This is something we didn't have before in Game Creator 1 actually. I'll show that again. I thought it was pretty awesome. If left arm, left leg, right arm, right leg, we can be a lot more specific than we used to. So that's really nice. So I'm going to select if player is available and if we're grounded. Then what do I want to happen? Then I want the player to, well, let's do the exact same thing. Wait. And then jump again. Now this trigger on start is going to check those conditions. If player is available, if he's grounded, then wait, and we're going to jump. Now it doesn't seem like he's available because it is not triggering, so we're going to remove this one. It is playing now, so it seems like on start the player is not grounded for a short moment, so that is definitely interesting. Explains the little jump, so we'll select something else. Is idle, there we go. And he is idle, and now it is triggering. So yeah, the little jump we see in the beginning indicates that he's actually grounded, not grounded at the beginning of the scene. So that's interesting to know. Cool. So this is one way of doing it. Now, if you want that to be a separate game object, you can do that as well. So we can remove those, and we're going to look up run actions. There we go. Then we're going to create those actions separately as well. And we're going to drag those in the conditions. Now we can grab these actions from somewhere else as well, which is interesting and something to dive into later. And then here we can literally do the same thing again. So we can do wait, 3 seconds, jump, and basically we're going to have the exact same effect as what we did before, but as you can see we're all separating it in different game objects. Now sometimes this might be a good thing to do, but as you can see we have more game objects, so it's a bit messier than just adding those instructions. Now if this is something really simple like this, 1 or 2 instructions and we're done, that's completely fine. But what if you actually want to be able to duplicate this a lot, and we need these actions multiple times? There's a long list of actions, and it's actually becoming really messy inside of, well, having, the trigger, the conditions, and the actions. And that's a reason why you can have all of this separated, but it's nice to know that we don't have to do that anymore. We can actually have it completely separate if we want to, and that's really nice, but we can have it clean and organized just in a single one by basically adding it all to the trigger. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Now these triggers, actions, and conditions is how you basically script in a visual way your entire game. So it's actually pretty easy and straightforward. Now if we look at those instructions as well, so this is where most of the magic happens, we have tons of options, so related to the animators, applications, audio, cameras, and yeah, we have some shakes in here as well, things like that, shots, tons of options, well, some debugging, which is nice, character options, tons of them, game objects, tons of them, lights, and etc, etc. Math, if you want to keep things a bit more interesting, we can save the game, time. Yeah, there's basically UI options. There's basically tons of options in here, and that's just really nice. It's a pretty easy way of visual scripting. Yes, it's on a higher level. And if you're thinking, well, I'm missing certain things that I'd like to do myself, then it's actually possible to create actions and conditions yourself. So when you go to create, game creator, developer, you can actually create these yourself. So we have the instructions, the conditions, and the triggers, the events. And some examples as well. Check the documentation definitely if you want to have a bit more information about this, but it will allow you to easily create some instructions yourself that allow you to interact with different types of assets, for example. It was already quite easy if someone like me could even do it for Game Creator 1, but it's become even easier in Game Creator 2. So yeah, definitely worth looking into if you want to create some stuff yourself. Now, if you are going to do that, I would definitely suggest uploading it to the hub so everyone else can use it as well, which is really, really cool. So yeah, that's it for the basics with Game Creator Core. I'll do separate videos highlighting separate parts of Game Creator 2. For now, I would definitely recommend going into the examples and actually checking them all out. There's tons of them, and they really truly highlight how most of the core functions. It's really great to have. Honestly, I'd recommend checking all of these. It's really cool. But yeah, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.